Now I wanted to shift to the session that will give you the global view and the wrapper on what SNIA is doing in the means of an update from our chair, an update from our two co-chairs of the technical committee, and we also want to take some time to hear from you after we do our awards ceremony. We want to celebrate those leaders without whom we couldn't possibly make all this work in SNIA happen. We are fortunate to have over 200 entities from around the world, 2,000 plus active contributors that participate in one form or another in all of this great work that you've heard about this morning. I hope, again, you will continue to participate. Those that are new and hearing about all this work, that are not members or not participating in some of these groups, that you've learned and will choose to contribute in this great work. Without further ado, I will turn it over to the SNIA chair, Jay Metz, for an update on the overall organization. Jay?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. I wanted to thank all of you for sticking out the very long day. It may not seem like it as I look at the calendar. It seems like it's only been a few hours, but when you start doing 5 minute and 10 minute back to backs, Michael's absolutely correct. It's a combination of marathon and sprints and relays. And thank you for sticking around. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to do is give you a quick summary of the next hour or so, a little bit more than an hour. Excuse me. I'm going to give you a short update as to what we're looking forward in the future to doing. We've had a bit of sessions of a kind of a patting ourselves on the back in the sense of the stuff that we're doing, giving you updates as to the work that's gone on, what kind of impact we're having. But it's also useful to know how we're going to be moving forward. We're also going to be spending some time with the technical council, and he's going to give you an update about the projects that are being undergone, as well as the ones that are going to be coming up in the future. And then we're going to be kind of playing the Oscars here. We're going to give our honors and awards for our industry, and we're going to be taking particular time to induct two new members into the Hall of Fame. Two people that I know very well myself, and couldn't be more pleased as I have the ability to do the induction here. And then finally, last but certainly not least, I'm going to try and make sure that we have enough time to promote discussion and feedback from the members. If there's one thing in particular that should have been clearer, is that all of the work that's being done and the kind of the flash flood of information that you've gotten couldn't be done without active participation. And so we're looking for ideas. We're looking for people who find something interesting. For all the stuff that we have talked about, there's an entire iceberg of information underneath the surface that we just simply couldn't get to. So we're going to be encouraging you to provide that feedback. Next. So what we're doing is we're trying to change a little bit of the way that we're doing things from a leadership perspective. Now, what has happened in the past is we tend to have something of a bottom-up model in SNIA, and it's worked. We got a lot of volunteers, we have a lot of projects, but generally speaking, it can lead to disorganized and disconnected projects. And sometimes we will start projects that don't seem to have a very good fit or alignment with some of the other things that are going on inside of SNIA. We're not looking to eliminate things necessarily, especially not out of any kind of desire just to eliminate things. What we are looking to do is try to make sure things have consequences. And we're going to be looking at moving from a bottom-up perspective to a meet-in-the-middle perspective, where the leaders of the technical council and the board are going to participate on championing the success of projects throughout SNIA and beyond. There are a lot of organizations that work tightly inside of SNIA and work tightly outside of SNIA. The GSI, the Green Storage Initiative, comes to mind. We know with the EPA and the works with security and IEEE and DCG and the work on the storage with NVM Express. all of these things have to be coordinated. They have to be orchestrated. And so what we're looking to do is drive the milestones and drive the goals from a top-down approach to meet in the middle with those natural passions that come from different groups, whether it be privacy or security or object or block or a blockchain or whatever it is. We want to be able to make sure that there is an eye on the prize as part of it. So we are generating interest and trying to recruit the resources to get this to work in concert. Like any orchestra, you just can't have the percussion section playing onto its own beat and expect everybody else to, be able to do their own thing. So part of what we're looking to do is improve the communication inside and outside of SNIA. And that's one of the reasons why we have been spending the last 6 months or so strengthening the internal communications with the communications steering committee, and it touches every aspect of what's going on inside of the organization and outside the organization. It used to be just marketing. Now it's everything. Now we're talking about intra-group communication, extra-group communication, life cycle management. All of it is going to be falling under a uniform approach to providing a consistency and uniformity of what makes SNIA SNIA, as opposed to a loosely held collection of groups doing sometimes unrelated technological work. So we're looking to create a synthesis across the board. And I know this sounds an awful lot like a bunch of buzzwords that you get out of some sort of marketing spiel, but we're really looking to try to create an environment and an ecosystem, because that really is SNIA's greatest strengths. Of all the different groups that we work with, of all the different things that happen inside of the industry, SNIA's ability to tie together the ecosystem is its greatest strengths. And if we want to be all things storage, it means that we have to do it in a coherent fashion. Next step, next slide. So the directions are going to be expanded. Earlier on, I did a presentation that showed you that we had 3 pillars and broke it down into security, data management, and computational storage. And that was a starting point. As we started to see today, there are a number of different broad stroke umbrellas, and they're all interrelated. Everything is related to everything else. And as you start to go through the tendrils of each of these different elements, you start to realize that they do touch everything else. But at the same time, it's possible to take a leadership position on each and every one of these inside of SNIA, and maybe even inside of the entire industry. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to get leaders to help us work through and through end-to-end approach to solving the problems that involve storage. So what you see here are very broad strokes. They're not mutually exclusive categories. In fact, on very contrary, you'll notice that there are a lot of overlaps, and that's on purpose. So what we are looking to do is being able to make sure that we understand how each of these different unique bullet points wind up strengthening each other, as opposed to trying to pull resources apart. Next slide, real quick. So what we're looking from you, and what I hope we'll be able to get to at the point of doing the discussion and the feedback, and I believe I'm leaving enough time specifically for that, is to try to encourage you to think about those items, the reason why you do what you do, as opposed, not just getting paid for, the paycheck, but the why do you do storage? Why does it matter to you at a personal level, on a level that doesn't necessarily have a nice, neat fit category? What we want to do is we want to tap into that and encourage it. We want you to participate and help us by ultimately help provide you the kinds of things as a general group and as an individual. And I had this mental flashback to Jerry Maguire there. I apologize. But what we're looking to do is we're trying to encourage you to provide your expertise in the area or areas that you feel that you can actually make a huge difference. And believe it or not, with all the stuff that's going on, any one person, and we're going to see this in just a minute, any one person can make a huge difference across the entire industry. The ripple effects are profound. And we're going to see some of these ripple effects, and the people who have done some of these voted by their peers into the awards, into the Hall of Fame. and just what those individuals can actually do. And you can be one of those individuals. So we're looking for people to contribute, share ideas, take those ideas and start to run with them, work with us, all of those kinds of things that allow us to be able to, really step up in concert and show that SNIA really does put its money where its mouth is. Right. So that's the ultimate thing. And we're going to get to that a little bit later on in the discussion section. Next slide. So I'm going to hand it over to Bill and Mark, and who's going to take us through the review and the plans for 2021, and then we'll return and do our Oscars for the day.
Thanks, Jay.
On the object drive twig, Mark, you started the object drive twig. I'll introduce us as Mark and Bill, the co-chairs of the TC, and let Mark take off with the first slide on this presentation.
Okay, the SNIA Technical Council is made up of technology leaders from across the industry. If you're a voting member of SNIA, you can put an individual up for the Technical Council. We have an election every fall. Then you can join the technical work group if you have specific expertise or you want to represent your company. So the Technical Council oversees the technical work of the SNIA. We create and oversee the technical work groups so that they can carry out the technical activities of this SNIA and guide where best to develop that work. We review and approve the technical standards, architectures, and software that's produced by these twigs. We also prepare general industry white papers on technology relevant to storage. We maintain the technical work group policies and procedures. We also develop and produce a storage developer conference, which assist in the production of SNIA, STC EMEA, STC India. And most importantly, we maintain the SNIA dictionary. And you can submit terms to the SNIA dictionary. We have a web page for doing that. And then we rototill your definition and put our own definition in. Next. Bill?
So our plans for 2021, we had a recent meeting where we did some brainstorming of the things that the Technical Council should be focusing on, areas that we should consider whether or not we should be guiding SNIA to get involved in. And the areas that we have come up with are considering whether or not SNIA should be involved in consumer storage, whether or not there's any standardization that SNIA should be doing there, and if so, within what twig, or is there new twig work? The next one is data processing unit. This is a new term in the industry. The question is there some need for clarity on it? Should we be writing a white paper that helps to clarify the term and what it means? And how do DPUs fit within the SNIA technical work? Do they fit within computational storage? Do they fit somewhere else? So we'll be looking at what DPUs are doing in the industry and what, if anything, SNIA should be doing to help make definitions for that. Another area that we're looking at is the accelerating timed productivity for storage professional and students. And this is looking at whether or not there is some education that SNIA should either be helping to develop or vetting that would help individuals who are maybe already in the industry that want to make a transition, students looking to get into the storage industry, what types of coursework, what types of education could be provided for them. So we're doing some work there. And then the final thing that we talked about is standardization of device ID-based features to reduce SKU proliferation. So within the industry, it is very easy to have a number of different customers, each asking you for a different thing in your product. And for each of those, you have to have a different SKU. And we're looking to figure out if there is a mechanism and something that SNIA could do to standardize identifying what features a device has so that you can provide the same device to multiple customers, meeting each of their needs without having to have a different SKU for each of them. Next slide.
Next. So the new technical work groups we created this year, and you've heard from the chairs of these groups, include the blockchain storage twig and the SDXI twig. So SDXI develops and standardizes an extensible forward-compatible memory-to-memory data movement and accelerator interface that is independent of actual data movement and data accelerator implementations and underlying I/O connectivity. The blockchain storage twig is establishing architectures and software for blockchain storage. Next.
You heard some mention earlier in the CMSI presentation about the NVM programming twig. The NVM programming twig has completed the NVM programming model version 1.2, the NVM programming remote access for high availability version 1.0, and a persistent memory threat model white paper. That was the extent of their current list of work items. That's not all of the work that they produced over their lifetime, but these were the work items that they had in 2019. Those items have been completed, and so they have no defined program of work at the moment. With that, the fact that they have not met for a year, that twig has been deactivated. And just to give you an idea of what that means is, it means that they're no longer meeting. The documents they produced are still available. They will be archived. All of their work will be archived, but they are not meeting. There will not be a chair or co-chairs of the group. And if there is future work in the area of persistent memory, we'd like to know about it. We would really encourage those who have work in the area of persistent memory to come forward and say, hey, you know, there's some other work that we should be doing in persistent memory. And at that point in time, we will look at that work like we did with blockchain and SDXI and form a new technical work group to cover that work. But at this point in time, we have had a lot of good material produced by the NVM programming twig, but there's no current work going on. Next slide.
So some of the technical publications we've done over the last year include CDMI 2.0, Key Value Storage API 1.1, native NVMe F drives version 101, the SNIA Emerald Power Efficiency Measurement Specification version 4, SMIS version 1.8 R5, TLS Specification for Storage Systems version 1.1, and Scalable Storage Management API version 1.2. Next.
So in addition to the ones that we have produced just within SNIA and published, we have 3 different standards in 2020 that went for ISO standardization, so they are international standards. The LTFS version 2.5 is currently in ISO publication process. SMIS version 1.8 revision 5 is also in the ISO publication process. Swordfish 1.1.0D has been submitted to ISO. The ISO process involves, first off, a 2-month period where countries are allowed to translate it into their native language before it goes for a ballot. And then it goes into a ballot. That ballot has recently opened. It will close on April 13th, so we have no input yet from that ballot. Following April 13th, if there are no technical inputs on it, then it will move into the ISO publication process. Next slide.
So we also completed a number of specifications that were in public review. SNIA Swordfish, the storage profiles bundle, the NVMe to Redfish Swordfish model mapping, and the persistent memory performance test specification white paper.
And
Yep.
in addition to the ones that completed public review, we have 3 that are still open for public review, which is the TLS spec for storage system version 2.0, the computational storage architecture and programming model, and the CDMI extensions and profiles. And if you want to review them, please go to the website, which is snia.org/public review. Next.
So our biggest producer is the SFFTA twig. And I'm not going to go through these, but there's a lot of work going on in SFF. They meet pretty much weekly. They have 40 people on the call every time. So really proud of the work the SFF organization is doing. Next.
So if you want to bring new technical work into SNIA, do you have an idea for a new area of technical work that you want to have done? Or a proprietary standard you would like to standardize? The process for that is that you find 2 other SNIA member companies that agree with you that that is something that should be standardized, and that SNIA is a place that you would like to do that. You then have the statement of support from at least 3 active SNIA members. That is a requirement to start a twig of any sort. And that support includes the fact that those 3 companies at a minimum are willing to become founding members of a new twig. From there, you create a proposal, you present it to the technical council. We will go over it, we'll talk with you about it, look at whether or not it fits in something that we're already doing or something totally new that needs a new technical work group all its own. The complete details are located in the guidelines for the approval of SNIA twigs available on the website. And if you need help, send an email to TCMD, the Technical Council Managing Director at SNIA.org. Other ideas for SNIA to get involved in, if you have other things you think that we should be looking at this year that maybe are not a new technical work, but maybe a white paper that SNIA could do, feel free to email Mark or myself, or both of us actually, at tcchair@snia.org. Next.
Okay, well, it looks like I'm back up again. Thanks, Mark and Bill. I really appreciate it, and I apologize for calling the TC a twig. I must have been looking at the word or something. Before we get into the volunteer recognition program, I want to try to bear with me while I tell you a story. When I was working at a previous company, I had a conversation with the IT director of a children's hospital, and he explained to me the consequences of what happened in 30 seconds of downtime. The issue of data being lost, the consequences of losing connectivity at the most critical moments was felt in heartbeats, and sometimes it was the last one. Whenever I think about storage, and if you know me, you know this is how I work, and I'm not being hyperbolic here. This is why storage is important to me. I always think in terms of what happens as a consequence to this. There's no margin for error when it comes to this kind of stuff. when I look at something like SNIA, a group that is dedicated to working behind the scenes, and for the last 3 hours we've been talking about the mechanics of the organization, the groups that are pushing technology standards forward, the relationships between SNIA and other agencies and industry associations. We tend to lose sight of some of that. There are people who spend quite a bit of time in storage, and they really put their heart and soul into it. So whenever I see the volunteer recognition awards and whenever I see the Hall of Fame, I'm always reminded in the back of my head, it sounds kind of mushy and it sounds a bit sappy, but I always think about that one IT director who was desperate for uptime. And when it comes to the actual recognition of people who work very hard, not just here in SNIA, but in other organizations as well, there are countless people who do this. So when we talk about the Volunteer Recognition Awards and the Hall of Fame Awards, I think in those terms. I think in the terms of that these are people who contribute so much to solving that one particular problem. And it's not just a children's hospital. It's in every aspect of industry. It's in IoT. It's in manufacturing. It's in laboratories and high performance computing. The stuff that we do matters, and it matters a lot. So if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, I want to talk specifically about the Volunteer of the Year, and I want to talk about some of the other aspects of volunteership that has been happening inside of SNIA. And hopefully at some point in time, you can sort of see yourself and where you fit into solving the problems of uptime and storage for whatever constituency matters the most to you. So the next slide, please. There we go. So you just heard Bill talk about the work going on in the TC and give a broad overview. Without question, Bill is one of our most active volunteers. He's spent countless hours, not just in the last year, but in the as long as I've ever known him, and he's got multiple roles inside of SNIA. He's the co-chair of the technical council. He is on agenda committees. He reviews content for SNIA events, including the SDC as well as SDC EMEA and the Persistent Memory Summit. He presents at SNIA events. He presents in webinars. He's participated in all kinds of committees, including the Communication Steering Committee, the Lifecycle Committee, the Membership Committee, Standards, Strategic Alliances, Strategy. I mean, there's very few things that he doesn't touch when it comes to being an active participant in SNIA. He's active in 12 twigs, and he's also participating in CMSI and NSF, and he's probably doing a bunch of other stuff in his copious free time, for all I know. But he is definitely a very powerful volunteer for SNIA, and we owe him a great debt of gratitude. And I see that there's already some congratulations coming in on the chat window, and I certainly think that you will join me in congratulating Bill for becoming SNIA's 2020 Volunteer of the Year. Thank you very much, Bill. And if you don't mind going to the next slide, please. So this award goes to Jason Molgard of ARM. And it's useful to know that Jason stepped into the position as the co-chair of the computational storage twig early last year. He's been actively filling the role of co-leading this extremely active and quite large twig. He has taken on the role with an incredible gusto. He takes phenomenal notes. Just speaking personally, I have relied very heavily on his contributions from my position as chair, and I can honestly say that the work that he has done has definitely helped smooth my own personal need to do things, and I'm sure Scott, his co-chair, would agree with him as well. Okay, next please. So this award is probably the most understated of all. It goes to Eric Hibbard of Privsec Consulting. Eric presented earlier on when it comes to the security twig, and given that he only had 5 minutes, to do his presentation, it robbed him of the true scope of what he does. He obviously participates in more than just SNIA, but we value him tremendously. He's got an outstanding knowledge of data security technology, and I mean, anybody who doesn't know this and still works with SNIA has got to be really new. He works with the legislation and standards and contributes all of that knowledge for the benefit of the industry and everyone here at SNIA. It would be it's impossible to overstate just how valuable his contributions are. He's the epitome of a trusted advisor, and everybody that comes into contact with him can't help but be impressed with the vast experience that he has on the subject matter. He's one of those people that becomes his own reference point. He's like, well, how did you know this? Well, Eric said so. Oh, okay, Eric said so. Okay, got it. So yeah, please help me congratulate him. Wow, I can't talk today. On his recognition here today. He has definitely gone above and beyond and deserves the Unsung Hero Award in a huge fashion. So next, please. Well, we are always looking for new contributors, and every once in a while somebody will come in and just jump into the fray and do an amazing job, making his or herself known into the SNIA community. And this year we're going to be recognizing as the new contributor of the year, Raj Ramanujan from Western Digital. So Raj has provided incredible, exceptional input to the computational storage twig. He's been able to drive the discussions of some of the device level requirements, and he's provided flowcharts that have helped the group understand aspects of the computational storage architecture. He's been working on the flow of the discovery process, and as well as potential constructs for how a device could perform the sequences of computational storage functions. All of that is a fancy way of saying that Raj has done a lot of work to help architect the way that computational storage can work. And his contributions are numerous, and they are valuable, as opposed to being numerous and invaluable. He's been fantastic. He's actually done an amazing job and really jumped into the waters with both feet, and is the kind of role model that I think we can definitely point to when it comes to new people joining SNIA and contributing. Thank you very much, Raj. Okay, next. Now, if this doesn't sound like an Oscar category, I don't know what is. A significant impact by a previously existing technical work group or task work, the award goes to. Well, in this particular case, it's going to go to a group, and it's going to go to the Object Drive Twig. And this year, the Object Drive Twig has published 2 important standards and are very important to the industry: the native NVMe over Fabrics Drive standard and the Key Value API standard. If you're not familiar with those, it really has made a tremendous step forward for putting practical application for a number of different NVMe over Fabrics technologies and NVMe technologies. So I want to give congratulations to the Object Drive Twig for all of that hard work. It's well deserved, and I hope you'll join me in congratulating them for that. Okay. Now, speaking of superhuman efforts, the next category really qualifies. Last year was one of the most difficult logistical years on record. It's impossible to understate. It's impossible to underscore just how difficult the travel restrictions, the hotel restrictions, all of these kinds of things matter, right? And they matter to us, and they made a big difference. So the group that really rose to the occasion and stepped it up is the SDC committee. The Storage Developer Conference was tasked with reimagining the flagship conference as a virtual event. And as a result, SDC more than doubled its usual attendance. And we got nearly 1,000 attendees from 52 countries from around the world. And the team built a virtual platform from scratch, custom tailored to SDC's needs. And over 130 video assets were added from the event to SNIA's educational library. It was an amazing amount of work. And all of the volunteers, staff, and contractors that worked on SDC this year deserve a very heartfelt round of applause and gratitude. Thank you so much for that hard work. Now we're going to get to the Hall of Fame awards, and I wanted, again, on a personal note, I know both of these gentlemen personally, and I consider myself to be deeply enriched from knowing both of them. They have been personal mentors for me, and I owe them a debt of gratitude. So you can blame them if you have issues with me. But the first one is going to go to profile and achievement recognition. It goes to Dave Dale. And Dave, as you probably definitely should know, was the chair of the board of directors up until mid-year of last year, where I took over the reins and had some really big shoes to fill. His participation is incredibly thorough, and I'm going to try and give a brief synopsis of the kind of work that David has done. He's participated in so many different committees and forums and initiatives. He was part of the executive committee and the marketing steering committee. And this is going to sound like a laundry list, because it is. The Strategic Alliances Committee, the International Committee, the Strategy Committee, the Storage Networking World Committee, the Education Committee. He's also a presenter and a tutorial presenter. He was one of the chairs of IP Ethernet Storage Forum, which is now the Networking Storage Forum. He was a founding member of both the Solid State Storage Forum and the Cloud Storage Forum. He was the vice chair of the Data Management Forum. I mean, we're not talking peanuts here. This is an incredible resume of work that Dave has done. Now, he shared with us some of his memories of working at SNIA, and I'm going to ask him at the end of this to say something for about 2 or 3 minutes, if you don't mind, Dave. Put you on the spot. But according to Dave, some of his fondest memories were being a team leader for the SNW Interoperability Pavilion. He really enjoyed the press and analyst briefings at SNW and SNW Europe, the IP Storage Forum roadshows, and the after hours camaraderie at the SNIA events. And quite frankly, that's probably one of the things that most of us will miss from the post-COVID era. He also says that he is grateful for the opportunity to work with leaders and experts across the industry. So, Dave represented SNIA at international events. He was a tutorial presenter. And of course, he was, a pivotal member in the SNIA board, and was absolutely critical for many years of SNIA, making sure that the keel was straight, the ship was righted, and quite frankly, I don't think any of us would really be here today if it weren't for Dave's leadership as the chair of the board of directors. So, Dave, thank you so much. And would you mind coming off mute and saying something for a couple minutes?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can, thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks. It's been my pleasure. I mean, like many of us on the phone, SNIA's been a significant piece of my life, and I just feel really blessed to have met all these really smart, engaged, technical people. The fact that all of us are walking the tightrope between cooperating with the enemy and moving the industry forward, and the fact that you always put in a lot more than the day job thinks you're putting into it, just because the degree of passion that it engenders. It's really interesting. I think I'm a much better person from having had this experience. And that's largely just drawing goodness out of all the people that I met. So thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Well, like I said, I have tremendously large shoes to fill, and thank you very much for leaving things in such good shape that I can, you can make me look good. So, thanks a lot, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
So we have a second Hall of Fame recognition that we're going to move on to at this point. And in this one, again, it's a personal thing as well for me, because I've known Rob Pegler for well over a decade, I think. He's been with SNIA for 23 years. He's also been just a laundry list of members and a member of committees, and he was part of the SNIA board of directors from 2003 to 2011, and again from 2015 to 2020. He was on the executive committee and putting in a lot of thankless hours there, with from 2015 to 2018 and 2019 to 2020. He was the treasurer for many years. He was part of the education committee and on the governing board with the tutorials. He authored tutorials and white papers, and was a presenter, and was even the chair of the education committee for 4 years, from 2006 to 2010. He co-founded the Solid State Storage Initiative with Phil Mills and others, and was its first treasurer. He was the co-founder and co-chair of the SNIA Analytics and Big Data Committee. He was a part of the Long-Term Archive and Compliance Storage Initiative, and was heavily involved in the SNIA Persistent Memory and the NVDIMSIG. He was also, not just working on the technical stuff. He also made SNIA as prominent as it was by being part of the marketing committee. He was also part of the Cloud Storage Initiative, which we heard from earlier, where Alex McDonald did his really good presentation. And he was also part of the File Systems Technical Working Group from 1998 to 2000. I mean, in general, it's difficult to find too many places where Rob has not touched the organization, both at a high level and down in the weeds. So I'm going to ask Rob to get off on the mute as well. And before he does, I want to give a quick summary of some of the things that he has said that is very fond of in his memories. So one of the things that we owe him a great deal of gratitude for is because of the fact that he's created a model and helped create the model specifically for education and tutorials. He played a vital role as the SNIA tutorial chair, and he led and mentored many tutorial authors, more than 90 tutorial authors, in fact. And so, everyone who has ever done a tutorial and flourished under Rob's leadership owes him a debt of gratitude. He also is, served on the board for 2 terms and presented the SNIA material, to numerous conferences and conventions and meetings, and he has represented SNIA proudly and with distinction. He has done presentations for the Tech Field Day, for example. He's generally been phenomenal at being a spokesperson, at being a leader, at being a guide, and yet still willing to roll up his sleeves and actually get involved in doing some of the the actual specific works. That he's created the persistent memory group, and really meant a lot of things to a lot of people. He's and the great thing about Rob as well is that he's always been extremely humble about the whole process. He's always said that he's considered it to be his pleasure to work with the great people at SNIA and the very smart people of SNIA, to kind of echo what Dave said, and basically be a linchpin for SNIA and the larger storage community. So, Rob, do you mind coming off the mute real quick?
Hey, Jay, it's Michael.
had joined us this morning, but had to drop halfway through the meeting due to
Oh,
a previous time commitment. He does extend his most sincere gratitude and humble thanks for the SNIA recognition. And congratulations to Rob, congratulations to Dave as well for the induction in the Hall of Fame. We do hope and look forward to see both of them at a future physical SNIA event to in person congratulate them and toast them for all their contributions and great impact they've made to the industry, to SNIA, and in return to many of the volunteers that have participated in SNIA and the future leaders of SNIA, the current and future leaders of SNIA as well, who they've impacted and contributed their learnings to, so we can carry forward the great work that they've started. So congratulations once again to both. And again, on Rob's behalf, the thanks for the recognition. And again, congratulations to both Rob and Dave for the Hall of Fame induction.
Yep. So I'd like to say one last final thing before we move off of the recognition part of it. I want to express our gratitude for additional unsung heroes, the staff of SNIA, who has worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make a lot of the things that you see run smoothly and handle a lot of the the rockiness that goes on underneath. So the contractors who have helped provide all of the extra additional support, I want to thank them as well, because quite frankly, the organization itself is really run with a very small group of people. And the dedication that comes in from both the staff and contractors and additional support is pivotal. So I want to give recognition to to Michael Oros and Michael Meliti, as well as the other staff members, as in addition to all the contractors who actually make many of the things that is easy to take for granted happen. So I want to thank all of you very much personally for helping me make my life easier, and everybody else on the board and the technical council as well. So thank you very much for all that hard work.
Thank you, Jay. On behalf of the staff and the contractors, thank you for the mention and the recognition. Greatly appreciate it.
Okay, so that's enough about me, and now it's all about you telling me how great I am. No, just kidding. Next slide, please. It's time for the member discussion, and this is the part where we really want you to, to talk and provide ideas and thoughts, and it's okay to go ahead and complain and gripe as well. And we are trying to keep things a little bit constructive, however. And also, if you want to volunteer, please feel free to say that as well. But we are looking for your feedback. So, Michael, how would you like to do this?
Well, feel free to use the raise the hand feature, or we'll try to manage the best if you come off mute and announce yourself and the role and company you represent, and the question, suggestion, or complaint that you might have and how we can do better. Please think about what are the pain points in the storage industry that you are aware of in working with your customers, those that you are faced in your engineering groups as you're developing new technologies and rolling them out. When you're dealing with your supply chain as a device manufacturer dealing with a storage system developer, or with our beloved hyperscalers and cloud providers out in the industry. Think of those pain points and please put them on the table. Discussing those pain points with a group will help lighten your burden, and hopefully there's others who recognize that pain point, and we can come together to work on solutions and how to address those pain points and move the industry forward overall. So please, if you come off mute or raise your hand on the Zoom, this is your time. We want to hear from you. Remember that you are muted by default, so you'll have to unmute your device to speak. I am going to start picking on people in a minute or so.
I was just
So this is Tom Coughlin. Wow, that's an echo. So I was going to say, I just wanted to say, I'm really impressed with all the activity going on. There's so many different aspects to SNIA. It's really expanded in terms of its activities, and I think impact on the industry. So thanks everybody who's involved.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate your participation and contributions to SNIA as well. It's great to have you be part of the team and particularly supporting and contributing to the SNIA events as well. Appreciate that. And relaying the work and message from SNIA as well in the articles and publications that you're involved with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any others? The TC has listed a few topics. How do people feel about that? And Michael, can you go back to that slide from TC on future work topics? What is the reaction to those items from those on the call? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are there other items that you would like to see discussed by the technical council?
Down one more page or two.
I think you want to go to the slide that has our brainstorm topic.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
There you go.
Yep.
That's it.
That's on. Thank you. What are people hearing in the industry about DPUs? Or is this the first time you've heard of that term?
So this is Tom again. I hate to come in again, but I would surely like us to get a better definition of that, because I'm, how does that fit in with the rest of computational storage? With other types of domain-specific processors, it'd really be interesting, useful, I think, to create a better understanding of the differences.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
And I will confess, I'm not sure what DPU means in this context.
Well,
thank you.
There's a number of companies out there that are pushing accelerators. Basically, that's what it does. It accelerates your access to SSDs or flash, reaching up even into accelerating standard key value databases.
Let's decipher the TLA first. Yeah. Data Processing Unit is what DPU stands for.
And anyway, the TC is going to invite some experts in to talk to us about DPUs. And we want to make those available, either record them and put them up, or allow you to join in real time.
Yeah, it's an interesting intersection of a number of traditional technologies, including the compute aspect, networking, as well as the storage. And right now it's very early stages as to what it actually fits into play, because DPU can sit on a SmartNIC, it can sit inside of a server, it could sit inside of storage devices, and effectively at a very broad stroke offload some of the storage stack. So the placement of where this is has implications for networks, it has implications for computational storage, possibly memory fabric somewhere along the line. It touches a lot of different aspects and different elements. And the data structures like key value, as Mark and Bill were talking about, are also part and parcel of possible use cases for it. So it's going to be very interesting, and we're going to see the words a lot more in the next year, I think.
I think it helps reiterate as the TC goes and looks at these things and how they relate to what we're already working on between SDXI, computational storage, DPU. We're seeing that the market is evolving away from some historically standardized architectures and realizing there's some new and innovative ways to look at it. So we've got CPU, GPU, DPU. We even at one point contemplated a CSU as a computational storage unit, just to stick with that, kind of concept. So it's just great to see the Technical Council and/or SNIA driving efforts to help the industry understand that these things can move forward together and help be the educational resource to show the overlap of all those things as well.
Hi, this is John from NVIDIA. I'd love to see the Technical Council work on exploring uses and definitions of DPU. Obviously, my company's biased in that we are promoting the term. We didn't invent it, but we're promoting that term quite a bit.
That's great. We'll have to have somebody come in from your company.
So if I can ask, I'm a fairly new addition to SNIA, and one of the things that at least having still an outside looking in view to this is there's a significant amount of alphabet soup, and DPU is just another brand new one. I think one thing that would be nice to see is some sort of Rosetta Stone that I know that at least one thing that we should probably be keeping in mind towards is making sure that we have a presence in users' minds, not just in vendor spec and vendor components or good vendor discussion minds, but maybe a Rosetta Stone to help the end user understand what these things mean and what the different companies are doing in the realm of CMSI and I can't even remember all the things, CSXI and all these different acronyms. It would be really nice to have something that actually kind of talks about what these things are, what's being worked on, what companies are a part of that, and what kind of progress has been made.
Yep. Thank you.
Any others? Things couldn't be going without with this little trouble and challenges out there in the industry. Not in this last year.
Okay, then you've woken me up. It's Alex here. It's just a quick question about education and this issue of accelerating time to productivity for storage professionals and students. We've had a group going that's been run by SW looking at taking this out to, trying to get university courses based on some of the material that we have. I've got a couple of concerns about this, and it's to do with amount of effort. This is not and I've already said this to various people, this is non-trivial. And I'm just wondering whether we've got the commitment and the bandwidth, as is usual, to carry it off with perhaps only 2 or 3 people driving this forward.
Yeah, this is Eric Hibbert. I'd like to piggyback on that because something I've run into in the security space, and some of us have talked about this, is just having materials that talk about the storage technology itself. What is it? What are the components? When we're working with, for example, ISO in the security community, it's been a challenge to find usable resources. And so what ends up happening is you get bastardized versions of descriptions. We saw that with one of the NIST documents recently, and one of the ISO standards 27040 suffers from that as well. And I'm wondering if some of what's being proposed here would also cover some of these issues.
Maybe I can try to address a little bit of that. This is SW Worth, and the accelerating time to productivity for storage professionals and students is not primarily intended to take SNIA materials and stuff them into storage courses, although we would be able to assist in that. There's more material coming on this, and you should expect to see a survey. This is really early days. This is much more a result of, 15 plus years of attending academic research conferences on storage and talking to professors who either have rudimentary storage courses put together for their graduate students or advanced undergrads. And all of us have hired people and then suffered the 3 to 6 month, maybe 12-month lag before they really come up to be productive developers in storage. We've also gone to storage conferences and said to ourselves, wow, I need something that I can spend a day or two to get me up to speed so that I can actually understand some of the research papers that are coming out. Or we've done a mid-career shift into storage, which is what I did, and tried to do the full speed ramp up to get there. This is primarily about getting academic people to produce better courses, primarily for academic consumption, but also for consumer demographics like people who are high-level undergrad students, beginning graduate students, maybe people taking a terminal master's degree, people who are new hires into the industry, people who are maybe mid-career changing into storage product development. They're designed to be technical, primarily technical and academic stuff. This is not product education for the academic community. It does address some of the concerns that we have about we'd like people to come in prepared, ready to contribute, or at least be able to get up to speed quicker beyond maybe just an operating systems course. So I welcome any input. I welcome participation from people who are interested in doing this, but this is really early stage at this point. It's on the possible technical work. For a reason, it's in the brainstorm area for a reason. It's not any finished article by any means, but please ping me if you're interested.
Thank you, SW. And many items, perhaps in SNIA and other places, will start with 2-3 champions, and that awakens others to recognize the opportunity or the threat and jump in and help, and snowball effect from there to grow the number of participants. And yes, participation has been a challenge. We all miss seeing all of your faces and interacting in person, and the productivity that comes along with those physical events and gatherings that SNIA facilitates in the industry. And we look forward to those returning at some point, sooner than later, we hope, but we want to do it in a safe and productive manner for everyone involved. Let us know what other tools we can provide and how else we can help facilitate that interaction and exchange of ideas. Because in the end, yes, we will take all the time you have available to volunteer and contribute to SNIA. The idea is to bring fellow travelers and competitors together to work collaboratively, and the end results of that collaboration to actually result in time and resource saving for your company in engineering development and long-term elimination or reduction of headaches from your customers once your products are in the wild, and not having to face interoperability issues which cost companies brand embarrassment, as well as multitude of hours and dollars to go fix and address. So we do welcome the big ideas, but the part of SNIA is to also give platform to new ideas and see how people react to them, and how they commit to joining to solving that problem. The Birds of a Feather sessions at symposium like this week, or Storage Developer Conference, are some of the mechanisms, or the webcasts that we do. And the events, physical or virtual, where members of the industry can interact with one another.
Michael, one quick comment. I just put it in the chat, but a quick comment on the TC. So stepping back for a second, I think anything that could involve hyperscalers more with the TC or working on would be great. I realize there's some challenges because hyperscalers often ignore standards or make up their own standards or make their own specs, and then Sometimes they share them back to open source with the community. Sometimes they don't. I'm sure the board has already been looking at this. But so.
Yes, John, great point. This is Rochelle. One of the things that we've been looking at from on alliances and from the management and others, and one of the ways that everyone could chip in and help is any way you are engaged with hyperscalers or cloud or other group containers in other organizations and any of the groups that are, to your point, reticent to engage with, standards, is we can build alliances. So it doesn't have to be, just the TC or just the board, but anyway, we're engaged with organizations like OCP, for example, or CNCF. And I won't sit and list a bunch of organizations. You can all figure them out. But if you're engaged with any of those organizations and can work on ways to build alliances with us to, for example, have them build up, a profile for use or that they can then use a SNIA related specification or something like we've done with the OCP. We were saying here, OCP storage, you guys are kind of specifying what you want to use. Can you turn that into a specification of something that the SFF has defined, and make those two organizations work together? We're trying to set a precedent there that we could do, follow that up with similarly with Swordfish. They're working similar relationships with the groups in the DMTF, so we can build those partnerships even if they won't come directly to us. That we can work with them through alliances.
And John, in addition to Rochelle's points, we rely heavily on the board TC and all of you for context and perspective. You are the surface of the SNIA sphere that touches the industry, to help us with contacts at those hyperscalers, the comments or concerns or issues that they have, to the extent that you're not under NDA and you can share those. And putting us in touch to have conversations with the right people that are contemplating or looking at these issues and challenges. The hyperscalers too are going through their own learning curve, that they're now having to replace a bunch of their architectures that put in place over the past 5-10 years. They're starting to have their own legacy that they're having to deal with upgrading and moving it forward to support their new business models and the new technologies and architectures that support the business. And they are starting and will further start to see the pain points of not standardizing some of the technologies they rely on. And storage and compute and memory are the three key pillars that stand up and drive their businesses from a technology perspective. I think this is on us to continue to represent to them and remind them as well how StandardsOrg can operate efficiently and effectively in delivering on their business objective and technology needs.
Again, so I'm just making a note to follow up on Tom's message in chat about working with IEEE on education. Same exact point. We could work on same kind of thing if it made sense to, build an alliance with IEEE that focuses on, storage education. I know as an IEEE member myself, I am in, multiple societies, not super active, not as active as Tom, who's up for president this year, president-elect. But happy to work with IEEE with you on. Yes, thank you for putting that in there. I was putting a plug in for you, Tom. But happy to work with you on trying to get IEEE and SNIA working more closely together on delivering educational content.
Yeah, and I'm glad to help any way I can on that, because I know, and I know you've done some work with standards, IEEE standards too. So there's some angles there, and also with maybe educational activities, and just the fact there's a lot of academic folks that are in the IEEE, so that may help.
Any other thoughts
just,
from?
just to be clear, I was not pointing at John as the only one that has to step up for the for the work to help us identify alliances. That was really a broad swath at anybody who's participating in any of the groups. So to follow up, I think Michael indicated I was targeting him, or was jokingly indicating I was targeting him, but.
We always target John, since he does great work and steps up when a challenge is presented to him. So we like to present him with challenges.
Yeah, so kind of, I think I mentioned several other technology areas that, in addition to ones that were mentioned earlier today, containers, I don't think got much of a mention. We've talked a lot about cloud. We talked about some of these other organizations, but if there's groups like that, that you think would be good that you are engaged in other areas that you think would be good to build an alliance, even if you don't have time to do it, please raise it up to, myself, Michael, someone on the TC, ping anyone and let us know who that is and how we might be able to create an alliance with them, or at least start to work with them.
Any other perspectives from around the world? Others from that may still be on the call? I know it's way beyond happy hour in the MIA at this point, and still an early hour in the Asia Pacific. Well, thank you to all for the participation today, your thoughts, your patience, and your energy and participation. It's really some are saying that this is for technology, and this is really our Henry Ford moment. These turbulent times of a global pandemic, where use cases driven by technology that we're just starting to bloom and being explored and being seen as edge cases of use case of technology are really coming to the forefront. They're really being accelerated. And yes, we have many challenges in front of us, but the SNIA membership is strong. The renewals are there. We're getting new members. On average, we're still getting one new member. Actually, for the start of this year, it's been more than one new member a month joining and contributing to SNIA. I see opportunity in front of us to come out of these turbulent waters, as they say. Fish are caught in blurry waters, and I really look forward to working with all of you and to make it possible for all of you to work with one another, so that we come out stronger with great ideas and great opportunities for us in the storage industry in the year and the decade ahead. So thank you once again for your participation today. Thank you to all the leaders for the content and pulling together the great update, and particularly highlighting the impact of the work that SNIA is doing in those areas, and both achieved impact and impact we're looking to have. And look forward to working with all of you, as well as with the support of the staff and the contractors, to achieve the list of items and much more that we've outlined in the past 3 hours here. Jay, Mark, and Bill, any last words as a wrap up?
Not for me.
No, sir.
No.
Well, thank you once again, in the spirit of efficiency. We want to give you 10 minutes back to get a chance for a bio break, grab some food, and prepare for your next meetings. Please take a look at SNIA.org/symposium for the schedule for the rest of this week. If you're not a SNIA member and you're looking to join the non-public meetings as a guest, we have outlined kind of the rules and boundary conditions, and also an email address that you can send to make your requests for joining as a guest one of those groups. We encourage you to do that. This is the time of year for you to feel SNIA out for the work that we're doing, get a better feel of what we're doing and why, and consider joining us if you're not already a member. So with that, thank you once again. Have a great rest of the week. productive meetings. I look forward to seeing many of you in the scheduled meetings for later this afternoon and for the rest of the week. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. If I haven't said that to all of you on previous calls, and all the best to you, family, and colleagues in 2021. Really excited and look forward to a great year. Thanks, everyone.